Hello, welcome into the channel. My name is Sarah. I'm a mindset mastery coach, certified hypnotherapist, and attachment style specialist. In today's video, we're discussing the dismissive avoidant, your favorite topic. I'm delivering on your favorite topic today, guys. So the dismissive avoidant, and in particular, why they believe that having needs is dangerous. What created that? What's going on for them? And how does that present itself inside the container of a relationship, in particular, a romantic relationship? So if your partner, if you suspect they're a dismissive avoidant, or maybe you know, or maybe they know they're a dismissive avoidant, much less likely, by the way, the dismissive avoidant is the least likely to know that they're an avoidant. The fearful avoidant will sometimes have the bandwidth and capacity to understand that they're a fearful avoidant, and the anxious attachment often knows maybe that they're codependent to some level. Secure person typically knows that they're secure, but the dismissive avoidant often struggles with even understanding what's actually going on. They'll see the pattern, they'll notice the pattern, but they're not necessarily questioning the pattern of their relationships, why their relationships kind of end the way they do, what happens, and why they sort of discard really good partners. They don't really understand that. They just know that it happens, and they're not really trying to understand it either. So we're going to talk about that in today's video. If you guys would like a personal session with me, I offer a 20-minute discovery call. The link is in the description box below. Okay, so how avoidants cope inside of a relationship. They cope by auto-regulating, by basically ejecting themselves the minute things get to be too stressful, too much. There's too much pressure on them to perform or behave or be a certain way, or they feel like they're having to meet your needs. Now, why is that? Well, the bottom line is a dismissive avoidant doesn't really have needs. And that's not even entirely accurate. Of course, they have needs. They're a human being. Rather, it would be more accurate to say they're not in touch with their needs. Therefore, how can you expect them to be in touch with your needs? And so I can hear someone out there saying, well, why in the hell would I even try to have a relationship with this type of person? Maybe you fell in love with this person. Maybe you're married to this person. Maybe you have kids together. Maybe you've had decades together and you do really love this person and they do really love you, and you're trying just to understand them better. You know, you fall in love with a person and you don't know they're an avoidant, or you don't know they're anxious ambivalent. You don't know they're a fearful avoidant. You don't know they're securely attached necessarily. And then you get into it. And really, with a dismissive avoidant, they appear secure in the beginning of a relationship. So you don't necessarily even understand that you're dealing with a dismissive avoidant until much later on, typically like 3, 4, 5, 6 months into the relationship. Because they presented themselves as secure at the beginning, it can be very attractive to an anxious partner, very attractive to a secure partner, and even attractive to another avoidant, like a fearful avoidant. So avoidants will deactivate inside of a relationship or in certain situations. They have to. Their nervous system is literally telling them, like, eject yourself or explode, right? So they kind of have no choice but to eject themselves from certain situations. How will they do this? They may pick up their phone. They may struggle with conversation. Like, they often, this is such a common occurrence with dismissive avoidance when I'm talking to clients. They will often start a conversation or start a sentence, and the partner's, waiting with bated breath for them to finish the sentence or finish their thought and carry it out. And then they sort of trail off mid-sentence, and the partner's like, wait, what were you just saying? Because that partner is trying to connect, especially if that partner is anxious ambivalent. They're trying to connect in any way. They're sort of like grasping for straws, like, please finish that sentence. I'm trying desperately to try to connect to you. I love you. And the dismissive avoidance, like, nah. And that's something they're doing subconsciously. They're not doing it consciously, but subconsciously they're protecting themselves from getting closer. Because if they were to reveal whatever it was that they were going to reveal in that moment, they know that they're making themselves vulnerable. And by making themselves vulnerable, they know that they're risking getting hurt. And really, the dismissive avoidant has no capacity for pain. That's why they run away and avoid pain. It's not because they don't love you or they don't care. It's because literally they don't know how to handle it. They were never given the proper tools in their childhood. They may also, pick up their phone. I think I said that. Walk ahead of you. That's another thing. And this has been deemed, look, guys, the word narcissist gets thrown around left and right. I had a channel on narcissistic abuse several years ago, almost a decade ago. I was a narcissistic abuse recovery coach. I no longer really ascribe to that label. Everyone is narcissistic. Everybody on this earth has narcissistic traits and tendencies. We're human. Very few people are actually a full-fledged narcissist. Everyone's ex is now a narcissist in today's society. It's bullshit. They're not. That person, that dismissive avoidant, can come off really kind of like nasty. Like the partner's like, what is wrong with you? Like, why don't you want to engage with me? What is going on? Why are you doing these things? It's mean. They're doing it because their nervous system is literally mandating that they disconnect from you in some way. So they will literally disconnect in the middle of a conversation. They will walk ahead of you. They will do things to purposefully disconnect, to sort of allow themselves some space or time to auto-regulate their nervous system, to get them back into homeostasis. Most people don't need to auto-regulate, or maybe not as much as a dismissive avoidant. I know I need to auto-regulate. I'm a fearful avoidant, so I have those avoidant tendencies. So sometimes I will go off. Like, let me give an example from a fearful avoidant versus dismissive avoidant. In social situations, when I was in my 20s and partying a lot, I would often leave the bar, not tell anyone. I just needed to get away from everything and everyone. I didn't know that was avoidance. I just knew that I needed to go auto-regulate. I needed to be by myself. I couldn't wait to go home, curl up in my pajamas. There was no Netflix back then, but I would watch TV or like read a book and just curl up or listen to music and be alone. And I wouldn't answer my phone, and I wasn't doing it to be a jerk. I wasn't doing it to be mean. I was doing it because I needed time alone. And it was like that quick and that sudden. So just to give you an example of maybe how the dismissive avoidant feels, when things get really tense in a conversation or tense inside of the relationship, when life happens, when stressors happen, which is all the time, they need to find ways to auto-regulate. They'll do this through, they'll be a workaholic, they'll work a lot, they will go hang out with friends, they will just go be by themselves and tinker with things and fix things, especially if they're dudes. Like those are ways in which they will, auto-regulate by themselves. They will focus more on automatic behaviors, right? Their system is literally telling them they're better off when they disconnect or when they find something else to do. It's a message that their brain, that they're being sent to their brain. It's actually a message they're receiving. This doesn't mean that they don't want connection or that they don't crave it. And I think this is the most confusing part for people to understand. Pardon me. I feel like that's a throat chakra thing coming up. Yeah, I'm speaking on behalf of the dismissive avoidant guys, and I've gotten some hate for doing this. And frankly, I don't give a shit because I am a healing, fearful avoidant. And my ex, who I still love, my soon-to-be ex-husband, is a dismissive avoidant. And I understand him now so much better than I did inside of the relationship. I understand his motivations and the reasons for doing things. And I have a lot more empathy and compassion for him and for the situation. They crave connection. Every human being craves connection. They just don't know what to do with it once they have it. They don't know how to maintain that connection. So that's why they can be so good in the beginning because, again, things aren't really serious in the beginning and they're able to sort of have breathing space and breathing room in the beginning of the relationship. So why are they really like this? Well, they were the babies that were told, go cry it out, go to your room, be by yourself. You don't want people to see you like this. Nobody wants to see you like that. Come back out when you're ready. Basically get yourself together. Stop crying, stop whining, stop complaining. They were not allowed to feel. They were not allowed to express their needs. They weren't actually allowed to have needs, okay? So therefore, you're not really allowed to have needs, which doesn't it make sense now when you understand that? If that has sunken in yet, like let it sink in, that when you bring up needs or concerns inside of the relationship, that they're basically going to make you feel like you're needy or asking for too much because they kind of get annoyed when other people have needs. They sort of put themselves on this pedestal like, well, I'm superior because I don't have needs. No, they just aren't used to having their needs met or expressing their need or needs. So when somebody else has it, they kind of look at you like you're weak or like you should be taking care of your own needs. I'm not here to take care of your needs. But in reality, when you're in a healthy relationship and you're co-regulating, you take care of your own needs and you also help take care of your partner's needs and vice versa. So they learned that they were actually much better off to deny that they even had needs. Because if their needs weren't going to get met anyway, then what was the point of them even expressing their needs if they were just going to get rejected, if they were just going to be abandoned in their time of need? If nobody was going to soothe them or comfort them, then what is the point of even having needs? So they learn to avoid, suppress, and repress those needs. They learned that they would be disappointed if they had those needs and if they expressed those needs. They learned that having needs is actually dangerous. It makes them vulnerable. And in that place of vulnerability, they're exposed. And in that place of being exposed, somebody can let them down. And in fact, their caretaker, probably their mother or grandmother or whoever was taking care of them, that primary caretaker, did let them down, force them to basically tough it out. That's why a dismissive avoidant can come off so hard and so like hardened to life and just so like a hard exterior, like they have a wall around them. They literally do. There's an energetic wall. It feels like a physical block to get to them. They are not open. They learned at a very young age that it was not safe, that it was actually very dangerous to have needs. What was safe in their household? Well, accolades, awards, sports, things like, oh, you got straight A's, or oh, you're the star athlete. Those things were rewarded. But having needs and meeting each other's emotional needs in that household was not rewarded, was not even discussed, was not talked about, and it was not modeled for the dismissive avoidant. So as I said, they often feel superior because they think they don't have needs. So they get annoyed when someone else has needs. They also refuse help. So if you want to try to help them, if you're like a loving, caring person, and maybe your love language is acts of service, and you want to try to do something for the dismissive avoidant, good luck. They're probably going to tell you that they can do it themselves. They truly think that they can do it better. You're probably going to end up fairly disappointed because you're going to feel like, well, I failed them in some way, even though I was trying to do something nice to them or for them. They really prefer auto-regulation. It is painful for the dismissive avoidant to be pulled out of this state of auto-regulation. So the best thing you can do if you're in a relationship with them and you want to stay in a relationship with them, honestly, is to let them auto-regulate, but they need to be held accountable. There need to be boundaries. They need to be told, hey, we do want to continue this conversation. I would like to know when you're going to emerge from this. Can we give it like a time frame? That's a very healthy thing to do and secure thing to do, to set those boundaries with this person who otherwise maybe would stay in that sort of hibernation, auto-regulation mode for, I don't know, days, weeks, months at a time. They really have less capacity than other attachment styles for dependence. They have a much greater capacity for independence, for auto-regulation, for basically security within themselves. But here's, the truth of the matter is that the dismissive avoidant is really lonely. And I can tell you this because I've talked to friends and family of my ex. They're actually very lonely. They actually really want a partner. They want that codependence, right? They want to have that co-regulation. They know that this is normal. They know that other people have this. They see it. They want to experience it. But then when it's right in front of them, they don't have the capacity to maintain that connection in that way with that level of depth. So they end up pushing you away. They end up pushing love away. They push healthy relationships away. And they push your needs away. And if you are a secure person, especially if you're an anxious, ambivalent attachment style, oh my gosh, having your needs pushed away can feel like death, right? It can feel like crippling for the anxious attachment styles. And for the fearful avoidant, it can make you angry. You get angry. And so then your partner, the dismissive avoidant, is sort of faced with this angry person. They don't do very well with anger, although they can sometimes display anger themselves, believe it or not. So can the fearful avoidant. So ultimately, the dismissive avoidant doesn't know what to do with needs. They don't understand needs. They really think they don't have them, although they do. They probably will not vocalize them or verbalize them or tell you they have them, but then kind of silently expect you to meet them. But then they'll say, well, I really don't have needs. And they won't really voice their concerns about the relationship either. And that leaves this gap between the two of you because you're like, well, I know you don't think I'm perfect. I know there's things I do that bother you. Please just tell me. Let's get it out in the open. Let's talk about it so that we can know what to do when these things do happen, or when I do piss you off, or when I do something that annoys you. They're more likely to come at you at the end and blindside you with the discard and say, well, there was this, this, and this. I didn't like that. I didn't like that. And you're going to go, what? You never even communicated that to me. Because again, that's vulnerable for them. It's scary for them to lean on somebody, to depend on somebody, to have their needs met. And they don't want you depending on them or leaning on them either. So you really have to be a pretty secure person to be in a long-term relationship with a dismissive avoidant. If you're a fearful avoidant, anxious, ambivalent, good luck. It's going to be really challenging until you get yourself more secure. And then you even have to ask yourself, if this person isn't willing to do the work or grow or understand my needs or have space for my needs, do I really want to stay in this relationship? Or do I want to maybe eject myself and try to find a more suitable partner? So that's really where it's up to you. I'm always of the mindset that this is a short life. We have an finite period of time as this person in this body having this particular human experience. So how do you want to spend your time? How do you want to spend your days? Do you want to spend it, fighting for connection with someone who may never be willing or able to give it to you? Or do you want to spend it with someone who's actually going to try to work on themselves, who's actually going to try to open up to you, who wants to change, who wants to shift? But they have to want to do it with you, because a lot of dismissive avoidants will say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go heal on my own. They're not healing on their own. They're avoiding and evading. I just created a word. Avoiding. They're evading and avoiding a real connection. They're going to go do it alone, but 9 times out of 10, they're not actually healing. We heal inside of a relationship. You want someone that's willing to do that with you. All right, guys, I hope this was a helpful, informative video. If so, would you take a minute, please drop a like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. All these things organically help YouTube's algorithm, help people like you find the video that really need this content, that can really benefit from what I'm saying, and it helps me grow my channel. So thank you so much for being here, guys. I'll see you in the next one.